life changes as you get older, and priorities that were once there, even though they're still important, are not really the priorities that I used to have. And
While he was winning Grand Slams, Jimmy Connors was also dealing with some serious relationship drama. His relationship with his ex-girlfriend was a whirlwind of controversy and heartbreak. Get ready for the shocking truth. Jimmy Connors was born in Belleville, Illinois, just across the river from St. Louis. They even nicknamed him the Belleville Basher in the tennis world. Can you imagine starting to play tennis at age 4? That's what Jimmy did, with his mom Gloria coaching him all the way. By the time he was 8, he was already playing in national championships. When he was 16, Jimmy and Gloria moved to Southern California, where he trained with the famous Pancho Segura. And get this, during his freshman year at UCLA, he won the NCAA Singles Championship. Talk about making an impact early on. He went pro in 1971 and won his first big tournament in Roanoke, Virginia. His playing style was something else, hitting the ball super flat and fierce, unlike the topspin pros of today. People said his shots were like torpedoes flying straight and low over the net. One thing that set him apart was his Wilson T 2000 racket, made of steel when everyone else was using wood. It boosted his game big time, from his powerful backhand to his killer serve. Even his rival John McEnroe admitted he was way better at volleying than people gave him credit for. He had an incredibly successful career, but behind all that glitz and power, his personal life was a mess. Before we get into all the juicy details, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for the latest sports updates from yours truly. So here's where it all began. Connors, the guy known for his wild behavior on the tennis court, claims he turned on the charm when he first talked to Chris Evert. It was June 1972, and they were having lunch at the Queen's Club during the pre-Wimbledon tournament. Evert was just 17, with her watchful mom Colette by her side. But Jimmy, always confident, went right up and sat next to her. By the end of that week, they had their first date. They went out to the Playboy Club in London. But Jimmy only had eyes for Chris, not the beautiful women or the blackjack tables. He shares all about it in his tell-all memoir, The Outsider. Imagine this. At the 1974 Wimbledon Ball, following tradition, the men's and women's singles champions paired up for the opening dance. The band played The Girl That I Marry for Jimmy Connors and Chris Evert, who were already engaged at that point. How wholesome is that? Even though Chris was just 19, they had planned to get married in November. But suddenly, the wedding was called off and no one knew why, until now. In Connors' memoirs, he spills the tea. He claims they were both unfaithful and hints, without outright saying it, that Chris got pregnant and had an abortion against his wishes shortly before their planned wedding. He writes about how an issue arose from youthful passion and they had to make a decision as a couple. But Connors felt that Chris, who was getting her way in their long-distance relationship, made the decision alone. He was staying in an apartment in Los Angeles with his friend and fellow tennis rebel Ilya Nastasi when Chris called to say she was coming to L.A. to take care of that issue. Connors was ready to take responsibility and let things happen naturally. But Chris, coming from a strict Catholic background and thinking about her future, had already made up her mind that the timing was bad. She asked him to handle the details, to which he responded with apparent bitterness. "Well, thanks for letting me know. Since I don't have any say in the matter, I guess I'm just here to help." Even though Connors wasn't so upset that he skipped going out that evening, he makes it clear that this event led to the end of their relationship. When he called Evert later that night to say he thought they were too young to get married, she didn't hesitate. According to Connors, she said, "Okay, if that's what you think. I've got a match tomorrow. Not a problem." Connors admits that Evert remembers it differently, saying they had a 6-hour conversation about breaking up. "I was sad," he confides. "I loved her, and we both put a lot of effort into our relationship. But the same question kept coming up. Can two number ones exist in the same family?" He concluded that they couldn't. Heartbreaking, am I right? And to think this was all going down behind the scenes when they were winning Grand Slam titles. Evert, who won 18 Grand Slam titles compared to Connors' 8, later said their marriage would have been a disaster. They were too young, too inexperienced, and too similar. There were a lot of sparks, believe me, but compatibility, you kill each other, she said a decade later. Her father and coach Jim also mentioned that lucrative financial opportunities got in the way of them settling down together. However, there was never any mention of a pregnancy. Any doubts about what Connors was referring to were cleared up when Evert responded with a short but damning statement. She said he had written about a time in our relationship that was very personal and emotionally painful, and that she was extremely disappointed he made it public without her knowledge. Apart from tweeting her thanks to fans for their support, Evert has remained silent on the matter. Connors hasn't apologized. That was a part of my life, and a very big part of my life at the time, he said. It was not labored on, and it was said as a matter of fact. Isn't it wild how different people can remember the same event so differently? What do you think about sharing personal details from past relationships publicly? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Everett's few words about the situation fit well with her usual approach. A friend said, "The last thing Chris wants to talk about nowadays is this sort of thing," but she felt very angry that Jimmy did this without even warning her. But Chris will readily admit that she's made mistakes in the past. Most people agree that it was pretty unchivalrous of Connors to reveal such personal details without her consent. Critics have jumped on Evert's outrage and Connors' harsh remarks about other players in his memoirs, saying it all just shows he's still a bit of a jerk. Was their relationship ever a fairy tale? Connors insists it wasn't. He says it was always on her terms. With the long periods apart due to their tennis schedules, Connors admits he was unfaithful several times during their 2 years together. However, he adds that America's sweetheart was no angel either. In the tight-knit tennis world, he suggests, it's hard to keep secrets. He claims he was always the one flying out to meet her wherever she was playing. Even then, their managers would often make sure they stayed in separate hotel rooms to get some sleep. He also says that Evert, obsessed with tennis, would cut short his love of partying by wanting to go home early. On the court, Evert expected Connors to practice tennis with her, even though he needed to practice against men. And when he watched her compete, she would glare at him if he even glanced away from the game. Connors says her mood swings could drive anyone crazy, and while he was very supportive, she treated him like a house husband. He admits he's always been old school when it comes to settling down and having a family. He expected to be the main breadwinner, meaning Evert would have had to make sacrifices in her tennis career. But things became even more interesting when his life got tangled with Evert's again after their breakup, and that too in the most unexpected way. He revealed in his memoir, "I had a new girlfriend who just happened to live in the same apartment building as Chrissy, right down the street from my place. Yikes," he added. "That was interesting. I still wanted to keep my private life private, so there was a lot of sneaking around." Connors admitted, "I really didn't want to bump into Chrissy. It would have been awkward for both of us." So that's the latest scoop on Jimmy Connors. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out our latest video on Arthur Ashe. I'm sure you'll love it.